Everybody, it's Mr. Bonhomme here with some more math. I know that you're hungry, and here we go. So today what we're going to talk about in this video is exploring improper fractions. Improper fractions are, like the word says, not proper. There's something a little bit off about them, something a little odd about them. All right. Fractions, what we learned, are part of a whole. So they are less than one whole, but greater than zero. Remember that? But with improper fractions, they actually represent an amount that is larger than one whole. We'll get into that in just a little bit. And the reason why they're improper is because the numerator is going to be larger than the denominator. Because the denominator tells us how many equal parts is needed to make one whole. Remember that. Keep that in your brain. All right? Don't let it go. If it gets out your brain, put it in your pocket. First, let's do halves. This is a good place to start. Halves. So between 0 and 1, I'm going to put a W, and that just represents whole. Between 0 and 1 whole, I'm going to split it right in the middle. That's half. I have 1 equal part, and I have 2 equal parts. So let's label it. This is 0 halves. This is 1 half. And this is 2 halves. And we know that 2 halves is equivalent to 1 whole. But now, going beyond 1 whole, we're still working with halves. So between 1 whole and 2 wholes, I'm going to make 2 equal parts. So I split it right in the middle. Boom. 1 equal part and 2 equal parts. So if I was to continue to count, let's start from 0. 0 halves, 1 half, 2 halves, and another jump would be 3 halves. One more jump will be 4 halves, which we see is equivalent to 2 wholes. I'll keep those up, but I'll just erase the jumps that we did. Erase that, erase that, erase that, erase that. So we have our halves. They're up here. Next, let's look at, let me make that a little bit skinnier. I don't know why I got so thick. Let's make fourths. So, let me switch it back. Switch it to, I'll do blue. So, yeah, let's get some blue in here. We're going to do fourths. Now with fourths, remember when we did halves between 0 and 1 whole, we looked at between 0 and 1 half, and we split it in half. Between 1 half and 2 halves, we split that in half. And let's just focus here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts in that whole, in that one whole. So let's label it. This is 0 fourths. This is 1 fourth. This is 2 fourths, which we know is equivalent to 1 half. This is 3 fourths. And this is 4 fourths. Now we need to go beyond 1 whole. That means from 1 whole to 2 wholes, we need to make 4 equal parts again. our denominator will stay fourths because between each whole, it is 4 equal parts. So that's why our denominator is not changing. Now, I see that between one whole and two wholes, there's 2 equal parts. I'm going to partition those in half. So now I have 4 equal parts from one whole to 2 wholes. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I could start it all the way back from 0, but I know that one whole, when we're talking about fourths, is 4 fourths. So the next jump would be 5 fourths. Next jump would be 6 fourths. Remember, the denominator is not changing. Denominator tells us how many equal parts between each whole. The next jump would be 7 fourths. And our final jump would be 8 fourths, which is equivalent to 4 halves, which is also equivalent to 2 wholes. And for our final improper fraction that we're going to be working with today, we're going to be looking at eighths. Ooh. An eighth is a little tricky for me to write it. But I'm going to try to make this a little bit smaller. This should work. I know that between 0 and 1 whole, I need 8 equal parts. And I know that I have fourths, I have halves. If I already have fourths, I can split my fourths in half. And I will get 8 equal parts. Watch. So from 0 to 1/4, I split that in half. From 1/4 to 2/4, I split that in half. From 2/4 to 3/4, I split that in half. From 3/4 to 4/4, I split that in half. Now let me erase the jump that we did over here. Let's see how many equal parts I have. From 0 to 1 whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Perfect. It's getting a little bit crowded up there. But I'm going to try. This is, it's really crowded. 0, 8. One more jump. This is 1/8. Another jump. This is 2/8, which we see is equivalent to 2/4. Take another jump. 3/8. Another jump, which is 4/8, which is also equivalent to 2/4, 1/2. Take another jump. We have 5/8. One more jump. This is 6/8. Another jump, and we have 7/8. And finally, one more jump, and that is 8/8, which is also equivalent to 4/4. It's also equivalent to 2 halves, and it's also equivalent to 1 whole. Now, we were talking about improper fractions. All of these fractions from 0 to 1 whole are not improper because the numerator, the top number, is not larger than the denominator. But we're going beyond 1 whole with 8s. So we need some improper fractions. So I need to be able to make 4 equal parts. Actually, because we're talking about 8s, I need to make 8 equal parts between 1 whole and 2 wholes. So I already have my fourths. See, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Remember, the fourths are in blue. And to make eights, I'm going to split those in half. So splitting that in half, splitting that in half, splitting that in half, and splitting that in half. Now let me label it. So this was 8 eighths. Taking another jump. This is 9 eighths. Another jump. This is 10 eighths, which we see is equivalent to 5 fourths. Take another jump. This is 11 eighths. Another jump. This is 12 eighths, which is equivalent to 6 fourths, 3 halves. Take another jump. This is 13 eighths. Another one, 14 eighths, which is equivalent to 7 fourths. Another jump, 15 eighths. And our final jump, which gets us to 16 eighths, which is equivalent to 8 fourths, which is equivalent also to 4 halves, which is equivalent to 2 wholes. Now, that was a lot of work that we just did, and I'm very proud and very happy that we were able to do it. This looks really messy, but what we did is look at improper fractions. We were able to look at fractions that are greater than 1 whole, which might be a little bit tricky, but it's something new. We'll get more practice with this, but I hope that you learned about improper fractions, which are fractions greater than 1 whole, and you notice that when the numerator, the top number, is larger than the denominator. This is Mr. Bonhomme. I'll see you next time.